As inflation remains stubbornly high, many workers are looking for ways to increase their salaries to keep up with the cost of living. And for some, that means jumping companies, while others are sticking it out with current employers, many of which are now offering the highest raises in decades on average. So for more on this, I want to bring in Wall Street Journal reporter Gabriel Rubin. This is so interesting. He recently co-authored the article, Stay for Pay. Companies offer big raises to retain workers. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like walking in. They're going to read your article and walk into the office feeling a little more empowered. So let us talk about why this is happening. Is it more efficient or cheaper for employers to promote from within, even with these raises?
Yeah, definitely. With this tight of a labor market, employers, especially in professions like retail and hospitality or warehousing, where people tend to stay for not that long on a job, the constant churn and needing to train new employees makes it really difficult to run a business. And it makes a lot of sense to often meet your employees where they're at so that they don't leave for a job that might pay more.
So where are we seeing these salary increases? Are they, you mentioned some sectors. Are they across many sectors and job levels too? Are we talking about salary employees and even an hourly rate employees?
So this is primarily affecting those on the lower end of the wage spectrum and in professions, like I previously mentioned, like in hospitality, leisure, and warehousing, things like that. And the raises are primarily going to younger workers, people at the start of their careers. So there's definitely a lot of demand for labor out there, primarily those in jobs that see the most churn usually, but that churn has been turbocharged by the tight labor market coming out of the pandemic.
If there's one thing that I have learned, though, is that usually the best way to increase your pay substantially is to go to another company. So the raises that are being offered now, are they competitive? Does it still make more sense for an employee just to stay at the company that they're already working at because the raise is going to be worth it versus switching companies?
So that's the thing. Raises for job switchers are still higher, on average, at least. On a case-by-case basis, there may be many, many cases around the country where employers are begging their employees to stay and will match a pay increase, a pay offer from another employer. But we're seeing that job switchers still have the upper hand. They saw 7.7% wage growth over the past year, ending in November. And for job stayers, it was lower at 5.5%. But nonetheless, that's the highest level in 25 years of data that we have, tracked by the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. So it may still be worth switching a job, and many people are still making that choice with quit rates through the roof still. But employers are really trying to keep employees any way they can.
So I know we've been talking about just how tight the labor market is, but I'm curious, here in New York, there new laws have been put in place to provide for some transparency when it comes to salaries. I'm wondering if those sorts of laws are also having an impact.
It's really tough to tell so far because so many of these laws are so new. I mean, you mentioned the New York law, that's in the past several months. We certainly don't see that in the data yet. And a lot of economists think that the impact will be less than advertised because companies are going to post the lowest possible level that keeps them in compliance with the law, but they won't necessarily be, fighting for employees via that mechanism. So there's still going to be a lot of bargaining between employers and employees, even with these laws in place. But we'll see. There'll be a lot of interesting data coming out of states that have the laws and those that don't, and comparing the two.
So, as you know, because you probably also covered this, that, coming out of the pandemic, people have really started to sort of reassess their life and their work-life balance in particular. We are talking about raises right now, but I wonder if there are other incentives that employers are offering in order to keep their employees, like allowing them to maybe continue to work remotely.
Definitely. That we see that across the board, different types of benefits, different types of flexibility. You mentioned work from home. That's a huge one. I talked to a company in Indiana that actually tied their pay raises to work from home. So they were saying, if you're going to come into the office every single day, you're going to get the highest possible base raise. And if you want to come in fewer days a week, then you'll get a lower raise, but that's your choice. You're choosing flexibility over slightly higher pay. And that seems to be working for them. And that's a sort of creative, flexible approach that we're seeing from more and more companies.
Well, that is so fascinating. Gabriel Rubin, thank you so much.
Thank you.